When it comes to parks, we've been everywhere from Canadian provincial parks to state parks and have enjoyed them all. We'd like to show you some of our favorites on today's show. And I say some because we had to cut so many down just because of time constraints. There were parks we probably liked as good or better than the ones we picked. As I'm introducing today's show, I can think of more that I wish I would have put in. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to have part 2, part 3. Well, you get the idea. Here we go to some of our favorite parks from over 25 years.
Our first park is actually a park within a park. It's the Fort Wilkinson State Park.
Fort Wilkins was designed and built as a frontier fort, much like the forts of the Wild West. Its purpose was to demonstrate an official presence in order to keep the peace throughout the Keweenaw during the early days of the copper boom. The peace took different forms. First, between the incoming miners and the native tribes who had recently lost the area in the Treaty of La Pointe. Second, between the miners themselves, as land ownership and prospecting claims sometimes erupted into civil unrest. The fort took its first garrison in 1844. Unfortunately, the United States government sorely underestimated the fury of the north winds which would blow through this fort during the Keweenaw's many months of winter. Frostbite, death, and desertion came in the first winter. The second saw more of the same. The fort was closed in 1846. The geological history of the Upper Peninsula brought the fort another glimmer of life in the 1860s when troops were garrisoned here and once again charged with keeping the peace during the turbulent iron miners' strike in Calumet at the peninsula's southern edge. The Harrisville State Park is another place in which to revel in the natural beauty along the tour. Nestled in a stand of pine and cedar trees along the sandy shores of Lake Huron, the park is within walking distance of the resort town of Harrisville. Established in 1921, it is one of Michigan's oldest state parks. Many visitors come to enjoy its sandy beaches. It also offers a picnic area and pavilion, 2-mile trek hiking trail, as well as non-groomed cross-country trails and a metal detecting area. The Sturgeon Point Lighthouse is popular with many artists and photographers. The 70-foot tower will catch your eye as the tour takes you north of Harrison in Alcona County. The solar-powered Fresnel lens of this lighthouse still alerts water and land lovers to one of the more dangerous reefs along Lake Huron. In addition to tables and benches, the grounds host several large nautical artifacts with informational placards. There is even a local legend that makes for a scary tale told at the foot of the lighthouse about the soul of a Native American who died inside the tower.
For a beautiful and scenic backcountry camping experience, a visit to the rustic Negwegon State Park should be on your agenda.
Well, we've made it out now to the Negwegon State Park. We're at the trailhead. We're just getting ready to take off onto the trail. We've got about a 3,700-acre park out here. We've got several miles of Lake Huron shoreline, some of the most beautiful undeveloped shoreline along Lake Huron.
The terrain is a mixture of lowland areas with small ridges to mature pine forest, some hardwoods and aspen forest, and some pockets of open meadows mixed in. The foot trails are rugged and visitors may encounter wet areas and streams to cross with or without a bridge, along with obstacles that may block the trail. Trails are marked, but nighttime travel is not recommended. Some of the Negwegon State Park's most scenic areas are accessible only by hiking, kayaking, or canoeing along the Lake Huron shore.
Coming down here onto the beach, as you can see, is absolutely gorgeous down here. Everywhere along this beach, you're just out here by yourself. What a great place to be.
The remoteness and serenity of backcountry camping draws many people. However, those same reasons necessitate careful planning and preparation in this unspoiled paradise, just a short drive from the hustle and bustle of city life. Just a few miles from Whitefish Point, you'll find another UP treasure, the Tahquamenon Falls. Noted in poem and song, you too may be inspired by the thunderous upper falls and adventurous lower falls of the Tahquamenon River. Teresa Neal, the park naturalist, shares the story of the falls with Tom.
Tahquamenon Falls is the second largest state park in Michigan, right behind the Porcupine Mountains. We have about 48,000 acres here at our park, of which 20,000 or so is considered a natural area, which means that there's no motorized vehicles allowed in that section of the park. A lot of people come to the park to see the Upper Falls, which is the largest waterfall in Michigan at 50 feet tall and 200 feet wide. Usually there's a maximum flow rate in the spring of around 45,000 gallons per second that go over the Upper Falls.
That's a lot of water.
Year-round, it's a really interesting place to visit. At the Upper Falls, it is considered to be a climax or an old-growth forest, and what that means is during the logging days of the 1880s, it was not harvested. So the lumberjacks of the 1880s to about 1900 in the eastern Upper Peninsula did not harvest the Upper Falls area. However, we did get an invasive species on our beech trees about 10 years ago, and so we did have to cut some of the big old-growth trees in the Upper Falls, unfortunately. Just the American beech tree. We have beech bark disease at the Upper Falls.
Back on the road again and off to Tawas Point State Park, an experience that will make you feel as if the world was nothing but the feel of wind. Wind and waves have washed almost 2 miles of sand snowy white at this Lower Peninsula State Park, which is 75 miles northeast of Bay City.
One of the highlights of it is the lighthouse itself. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is kind of the highlight. This is what a lot of people come for. This is actually the second lighthouse that's on the point. We had a lighthouse back by the campground that was built in 1852, and the point grows so much that within 20 years that lighthouse was actually obsolete. They had to build a new lighthouse, and this is the one that they built here in 1876.
On the park's Lake Huron shore, you can wade into the waves and stroll walkways that circle marshes where songbirds serenade. As shadows lengthen, visitors head for the beach to watch the sunset across Tawas Bay. You can choose Highway 127 or take the old route to Higgins Lake. Designated one of the most beautiful inland lakes in the world, a great way to enjoy its sparkling waters is to take to the lake on a windsurfing raft. Following some instructions on the simple craft consisting of a board, boom, and sail, we were ready to try our hand on the rig. It was a perfect day, with winds out of the west at 30 to 40 miles per hour. Since this was Tom's first try, he was following the creed that if at first you don't succeed, try again. Whether you're a hardcore outdoor sports enthusiast or a casual sun and fun type, you'll be blown away with wonder and awe as you become one with the elements in this sublime, free-riding sport. And there's no better way to enjoy it than being out on beautiful Higgins Lake with other windsurfers and boaters. Just across from the Higgins Lake South State Park is Marl Lake, a non-motorized fishing lake with 3 loop trails along the edge of the lake and inland. It's a great place to bring the family, watching for all the birds and small critters that cross your path. There are even a number of geocaches just off the trail to make this a real adventure for young and old alike. Marl Lake, across County Road 100 from the popular South Higgins Lake State Park that totals about 1,000 acres, offers great wildlife viewing. The Marl Lake portion of the park is about 700 acres. From the parking area, you can start out on the hiking trail along and around the west and south shores of Marl Lake. Indian Lake State Park, located just west of the town of Manistee, is an 847-acre state park. Camping is a popular recreation at this lake. Located along the southern shore of the lake, it has 302 modern campsites, with several located right along the water. Indian Lake is the 4th largest lake in the Upper Peninsula and is considered one of Michigan's top fishing lakes. You'll find plenty of walleye, smallmouth bass, and various panfish,
and they're sure to offer you the best fishing in terms of amount. But other fish, such as a 105-pound sturgeon and a 32-pound muskie, have been taken from Indian Lake in recent years. So when you come, be prepared for anything.
Well, one of the things we like to do when we're fishing is have fun. You know, whether we're out there in the lake catching some fish, or we like to come in and cook up a little. We got some brats up here today, and we just stopped in to cook ourselves a little meal, enjoy the sights here. Now, we're lucky today because the wind is actually coming out of the southeast, and that leaves us a state park where the water out in front of us is just calm. It's real nice down here. We're right by one of the beautiful pavilions that they have here. We're the only ones around, and we're going to cook ourselves up a little meal here and really enjoy ourselves.
Tomorrow we will go back on Indian Lake and see what fishing conditions are like.
Another state park that is very near our last stop is Palms Brook. Just 12 miles west of Manistee on Highway 149, Palms Brook State Park contains one of Michigan's most intriguing natural attractions, Kitchity-Kippy, the Big Spring. 200 feet across and 45 feet deep, Kitchity-Kippy is Michigan's largest spring. Kitchity-Kippy means the mirror of heaven, but the calm surface waters belie the fact that over 10,000 gallons of water a minute gush from many fissures in the underlying limestone. The underwater flow continues throughout the year, and the pond remains at a constant 45 degrees, cold to the touch in summer, yet never freezing in the winter. These oddities mystified the Native Americans of the region, who believed the spring held sacred powers. We suggest you take a lunch and ride the raft a couple of times. It's well worth the time. Moving further west along the Lake Michigan shoreline, we pass the Fayette Historical Ghost Town, located on the Garden Peninsula in Delta County. The Fayette State Park is comprised of a total of 365 acres, including 80 campsites with electricity, swimming, hiking, and boating. Fayette also is the site of the most complete iron smelting town in the Midwest. As you travel to the entrance of this park, be prepared to step back in time. During the 1870s and into the 1880s, Fayette and its busy village of 500 inhabitants labored around the giant charcoal kilns. They shared the daily hardships, joys, and sorrows while they manufactured iron for our nation. Today, it remains as an outstanding example of an early 19th century iron smelting town. Found in a small harbor surrounded by hardwood forests and limestone cliffs, it offers unmatched serenity of another time. In all, it makes a nice stop for the whole family.
The Lake Michigan Recreation Area borders Lake Michigan to the west and Nordhaus Dunes Wilderness Area to the south. There are two accesses for this beach, one at the end of both roads. There are several historical interpretive signs along the campground trails discussing history and dune ecology of the area. The Lake Michigan campground is perched on the shores of Lake Michigan, 15 miles south of Manistee. The area creates an incredible setting with a scenic overlook of the lake and a sandy swimming beach. This family campground provides an array of hiking and biking trails, plus swimming, fishing, and kayaking. Most of the dunes are found within the Ludington State Park that encompasses 5,300 acres of dunes and woodlands. The neighboring Nordhaus Dunes cover 3,500 acres. There are more than 20 miles of trails crossing the Ludington State Park, so we decided to take the most popular and the shortest, the half-mile Skyline Trail. The only thing is, there are 3 stairways to climb to access the trail. To get to the Big Sable Point Lighthouse, follow the Lighthouse Trail. Its natural features are the dramatically different environments found within the sand dunes, which gives you a sense of being small among the rolling dunes. Listed on both the state and national registers of historic places, Big Sable Point Lighthouse has been standing tall since 1867. The light could be seen by mariners as far as 19 miles out on Lake Michigan, so you know the view at the top of the 130 tower steps is awe-inspiring. Whether Lake Michigan is calm with barely a ripple, or roiling tides are buffeting the shore. This was the last lighthouse of the Great Lakes to be electrified, and it welcomes visitors from May to October. You may want to visit the gift shop and keeper's quarters before climbing the tower stairs, as there is a 1.8-mile hike from the parking lot to the lighthouse itself. As you approach it, it should bring up in you feelings of isolation that the keepers must have felt during that important period of maritime history. Rifle River Recreation Area is a 4,329-acre wilderness located within the Au Sable State Forest in Ogemaw County and provides a variety of recreational opportunities. This area was formerly a private hunting and fishing retreat owned by the late H.M. Jewett.
We're here at the Rifle River Recreation Area. We're at Grebe Lake. Now, for those that have been out here, the way you might understand where this lake is at is there's an overlook tower that's just down from here. And a lot of people that come out here will stop at this tower and go up and you can overlook this lake. I'm with Dominic right now. Dominic, why don't you tell us a little bit about the lake and this fabulous ramp that you've got here?
Yeah, the lake has been a great fishing lake. Lots of bass, lots of pike come out of this lake. The handicap accessible pier that we have is a few years old, about 7 or 8 years old. And it's great for kayakers, experienced kayakers, or even new kayakers. You know, it's got the great rolling bars for easy entry and easy exit when you're coming out of the lake. In the fishing pier at the end.
Okay, real quick too, how many other lakes are out here?
7 lakes altogether at the rec area here.
The Colwell Lake Recreation Area is located at the northern end of Schoolcraft County and about 25 miles northwest of Manistee. Colwell Lake is 145 acres with an excellent swimming beach and boat access. Camping, fishing, picnicking, and hiking are all popular recreation activities at Colwell Lake. For hiking, there is a nearly 2-mile-long loop trail that meanders along the edge of the lake and is surfaced to be fully accessible to people with mobility impairments. The trail is particularly stunning in the fall and also is popular in the winter as a snowshoe trail. You can take a nice stroll along the path or stop for some great fishing or photo opportunities. All you need are your hiking boots, a bottle of water, and a walking stick to enjoy this trail. You can walk it in a couple of hours, but you may want to stop at the benches along the way for a brief respite or to just enjoy the view. To get a close-up view of the natural waterways, we're going on a guided eco-tour.
Hi, we're on a trip with Johnny Panther Quest Adventure Trips in the Shiawassee Refuge. Come in for 3 to 5 hours. You're going to see a lot of eagles, egrets, maybe an occasional deer, beaver. You can see all kinds of wild animals. And for bird watchers, bring your binoculars and your cameras. You're going to see a lot of stuff out here.
This is one of the richest wildlife habitats in Michigan's Lower Peninsula that anyone can have the pleasure of navigating through.
This is part of the largest watershed in the state of Michigan, and they call it the Shiawassee Flats. This whole area was once underneath a huge lake 10,000 years ago. Once the water receded, it left behind all this flat area which was once underwater, hence the Shiawassee Flats.
The river is surrounded by a diverse stand of hardwoods, and its unspoiled beauty is evident.
When you come out with me, I supply a cooler, ice, and a bag of pistachios. Bring whatever you like to put in the cooler. Bring your own cooler. Picnic baskets, cameras, and binoculars are highly recommended.
It's a new adventure around each bend in the river, and exciting to sight a bald eagle watching from the trees and hear and observe the geese flying home overhead. For our next waterway, we'll be sitting in a sea kayak, one developed for paddling on open waters and rougher conditions. It's the perfect vessel for our trip out of Tobermory. Georgian Bay offers a variety of canoeing and kayaking experiences, including islands, lighthouses, and shipwrecks. Starting from Tobermory Harbor with our friends from Tom Crest Outfitters, National Park Ranger Ethan Millay, and good friend and guide Chris Hughes. Even though the sea kayaks are seaworthy boats designed to prevent water from filling the ends of the boat when capsized, we were sure that would not be a problem on this calm, beautiful day. In fact, the waters were so calm, it was easy to see our first shipwreck in the deep and sparkling waters at the mouth of Georgian Bay, home to Fathom 5, Canada's first National Marine Conservation Area. The park preserves 22 shipwrecks and several historic light stations. Fathom 5's freshwater ecosystem contains some of the most pristine waters of the Great Lakes. The rugged islands of the park are a reminder of the impressive, often dangerous, lake bed topography found beneath the waves. The many shipwrecks make the park Canada's most popular scuba diving destination. The last park on today's show is the Porcupine Mountains State Park. We've been here many times over the years, but just like everything else in life, the first time is always special. So here is the video from our first trip to this magnificent park from 25 years ago.
The Porcupine Mountains Wilderness Park is often called the crown jewel of the state park system. Located in Ontonagon County in the western Upper Peninsula, it includes 60,000 acres of mountain wilderness. Designated as a state park in 1945, it encompasses 5 lakes, several trout streams, many beautiful waterfalls, and 30,000 acres of virgin forest. The wooded hills of this park rise almost 1,000 feet above the 23 miles of Lake Superior shoreline. This park is an adventure for everyone. 5 campgrounds are located within the park that are accessible by road. The largest is the Union Bay Campground. Located on the east side of the park, it has 95 modern sites which include hot showers and electricity. At the west end of the park lies the Presque Isle Campground with 88 semi-modern sites. These have no electricity. The park also has 3 rustic campgrounds that are located along the South Boundary Road. With no roads running into the interior of the park, it has become a haven for hikers and backpackers. The park maintains over 90 miles of trails, along with 16 wilderness cabins that can be rented to accommodate overnight wilderness camping. The solitude of the park is mysterious and exciting. A person hiking to the interior of the Porkies must actually turn back the clock and call on the skills that were second nature to our ancestors. One must appreciate the ways of the wilderness area to thoroughly enjoy backpacking the Porkies.
Well, that's it for today's show, our favorite parks from the last 25 years. Well, at least what we could get into a half-hour show. Let us know what you think of our park special by dropping us a note, and you can get more information at greatgetaways.tv. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for another great getaway.